That is bullshit.
Hello everyone, my name is Don, the movie reviewer, and today we're going to be talking about Unfriended Dark Web.
Actually new.
There's a cyber cafe that I've been working at, and this computer was sitting in the lost and found for the last 3 or 4 weeks.
Hang on, you stole someone's computer?
I didn't steal it.
Oh, yeah, okay.
That's messed up.
And I found this folder, it was hidden, and it automatically connects you to this thing.
Dude, this is dark web.
What's dark web?
Part of the internet where no one can track you.
It's all about drugs, illegal IDs, even assassination for hire. Hey, yeah, the dark net is mostly about the bad guy.
That looked way too real.
I think that is real.
Guys, that's what they're trading.
Trade what?
All those videos!
We have to do something, and we have to do it now.
Who's that?
Oh my god. That's my mom. No!
Please, leave us alone! Get out of there right now!
I can hear you. Are you still
Kelly,
there?
I can't
just
see you.
So Unfriended Dark Web is the sequel to the first Unfriended movie, which was just called Unfriended. I absolutely loved the first Unfriended movie. I thought it was suspenseful. It had a really interesting story with great acting. And as soon as I heard about the sequel, Dark Web, I immediately hopped on that and I did a trailer reaction video for it. Link in the description if you want to check that out, which why would you, because you're watching this. And so if you just want to get my little history background with Unfriended Dark Web and the first movie before watching this and before you're checking this out, go ahead and click on that link in the description for my trailer reaction, or trailer discussion as I like to call it, for Unfriended Dark Web. Now, I saw Unfriended Dark Web, just got back from viewing it, and let's get into it. Going into this movie, I was anticipating something that was similar to the first movie, first Unfriended movie, and what I got was something that I would say is better than the first movie, but then it's not better than the first movie, but the story's better than the first movie, and the concept is a bit more interesting this time around. Without spoiling too much, I will say that in Unfriended Dark Web, unlike the first movie, this movie takes a more realistic approach towards the mayhem that ensues with a group of friends who are Skype chatting. And I would say that the situations the characters got themselves into this time around was far more interesting than what happened in the first movie. Reason being is because I felt that in the first movie, what the characters were going through was paranormal, whereas in Dark Web, the situations were more realistic and grounded in reality. Now, the paranormal aspect is something that I enjoyed in the first movie, you know, with that integrated with the character situations, their history with whatever the paranormal entity is that is haunting them, was blended into the story really well, and had a lot of scares in there, a lot of flashes, lots of flashes of moments where, you know, you see something happening to a character that's horrific and you're like, did I just see that? And it was kind of frightening for me in its own right. And with Unfriended Dark Web, it kind of loses that flair that the first one had. It's a more intriguing story with especially what's going on in our world today within the culture of the internet and people who are always on the internet. This movie does, I think, a great job of just putting fear into the viewer of like, this is what's out there and this is stuff you may not know about, and if you do know about it, well, you know it's out there and you know it's something not to be trifled with. And so the movie is scary in that sense, to where it's like there is this thing that's out there, and I think it hits home more than anything because you know that this thing is out there, maybe not to the extreme degree that the movie portrays, but and the stuff that you know of, it's really scary when you think about it and all the possibilities where the people can do things to other people. It's a crazy world we live in, especially in a digital age. It's crazy. In the movie, that's what's scary about it. That's the narrative of the movie. The content is scary, to where it kind of loses its steam as the story progresses. You're, as a character, as a person, you're morally invested in these characters because of the situation that they find themselves in. Like, first you know them as a group, as a collective. Like in the first movie, you learn who each person is and their personalities, so you kind of build this friendship with them, because I think the perfect thing about this movie and how it's executed in its concept with, it's like, yeah, it's a Skype chat. So and on the big screen, it kind of feels weird. It doesn't feel like a real movie. It feels like, oh yeah, this is something you can watch at home. But I would say the rich thing about it is how you have this intimate connection with these characters through this Skype chat, to where you're like first person view in it, and you're like, it feels like you're one of the friends in the group that is involved in this whole thing. And that's what makes it most intense, because of the situations that the characters are in, how realistic it feels, and just them being on a Skype conversation to where you feel personally involved. And the actors, on top of that, did a fantastic job. I think the acting in here is the most flawless aspect in this movie. We got Blair Witch style and Viola Davis, fences, kind of snot coming out of people's noses when they're all scared and frightened. We got people who are crying on cue and everything. So I think the acting in here is the most highlighted part, but mixed with the tension of the situations and how realistic the situations are. It does make for a slow movie experience because of the story keeps going and going and going, giving you more information and more information, to the point of the movie does feel boring and slow. I would say the movie feels boring and slow because of the amount of story that's within it. That's what was beautiful about the first movie. We can deal with a paranormal entity, so then random things can happen. And whereas in this, it's more grounded in reality, so it's less spontaneous and it takes a long time to get to where it's going. But I feel that the payoff, by the end of it, it's worth the wait. If you're invested in the characters and the story and the situation that the characters are in, which I think is some intense stuff, there is a big payoff at the end. You sit through all of the story information being told to you, and there's not many horror elements in it, but the story itself is engaging enough so that by the end there is a big payoff for all of the fans of the first movie who wanted to see some spontaneous, crazy shit go down. Overall, I will give Unfriended Dark Web an A-. Yes, you heard me right. I give Unfriended Dark Web an A-. I enjoyed this movie. I could say I loved this movie. It was a good movie for what it was. Did it give me what I was looking for? Not necessarily, because like I said, the first movie felt more like a paranormal story being told, whereas this one felt like more of a grounded reality story being told. So it didn't have as much excitement as the first movie had, whereas like in the first movie you got these spontaneous events happening, whereas in this there's mostly just a story being told amongst these characters and they go on and on and on with it. But if you build a relationship with these characters within the movie, then the payoff at the end will be much more satisfactory because of the amount of investment that an audience member has with the character by the end of the movie. But I mean, it's like, what do we come to these movies for? Do we come to these movies to be scared? Which I did come to this movie to be scared, but I wasn't scared by like the story being told in the first movie was scary because it was an entity, whereas in this it's like a normal thing, and it just makes for something that is kind of boring. But if you're invested enough into the characters, then there is some satisfaction to be had. And if you like the first one, you might be a little disappointed with this because it's not, like I said, it's not anything like the first movie, really. I don't even know why they called this Unfriended, just maybe because of the name, but I don't know if the first one was so popular. Or they just could have called this Dark Web, because no one gets unfriended in this movie. But I enjoyed it. I had fun with it. I thought, yes, the realistic aspect of the film, how grounded it was the scary part. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't say this is necessarily a horror movie. I would say that Unfriended Dark Web is a suspenseful thriller. And what is suspenseful about this? The character situations. That's the suspenseful part about the movie, because the format that it's in makes it seem boring. But if you're really invested and engaged in the characters, you will get a sense of the characters out of this movie and learn who they are, and you'll build a relationship with them that by the end there is an interesting payoff. But I don't know, it just misses that flair of the first movie where you have these spontaneous things happening, and it doesn't happen in this. But overall, I had fun with it, even though it's not really what I wanted. But yeah, I enjoyed Unfriended Dark Web. That's all I have to say. So as always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Channel fucking sucks. The reason why you don't have any viewers or subscribers is because